Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Blinken, thank you for your statement. During our meeting yesterday, we discussed the department will need to repair and rebuild its relationship with this committee. I think it's after 28 years of doing public foreign policy in the House and the Senate, I've never seen a moment like this in terms of our relationship with the State Department. And having heard your opening statement, I'm confident you understand the importance of a constructive relationship between the department and Congress. So I just have a few quick questions. I've always asked this of every Secretary of State nominee. I'd like to ask you, if you can answer it yes or no, I'd appreciate it. Do you agree that the State Department is accountable to Congress and the American people?
Yes.
Do you commit that the department will keep this committee fully and currently informed on the department's activities?
I do.
Do you understand and agree that a constructive relationship between the department and this committee requires meaningful engagement and consultation with the committee while policies are being developed, not after the fact? And can you commit to ensuring that type of meaningful engagement?
Yes, I do, and I can.
Thank you very much. Let me turn to Iran. This is going to be one of the most difficult challenges early on because Iran has accelerated. The maximum pressure campaign did not stop it from its acceleration. We were broken away from our allies. We could not even get from our traditional allies a vote at the United Nations on continuing the arms embargo, and that is not a good recipe to counter Iran. So I think there is a will to work together in a serious diplomatic engagement with Iran, but some of our concerns about the JCPOA, obviously time has lapsed, the sunset is closer. Some of the other issues have come to the fore in terms of the JCPOA, and then you have all of Iran's other destabilizing activities. Some of us have worked, Senator Graham, a member of the committee, and I have worked along with others in thinking about how something along the lines of returning to the JCPOA, but with a commitment, a process by which the Iranians would have to deal with some of the challenges left by the JCPOA and other issues, looking at the possibility of a regional fuel bank so that not only the Iranians but those in the Gulf would be able to participate to receive nuclear fuel for domestic peaceful consumption, but not enrichment. We could diffuse a tinderbox in the region of all these countries who are looking now to enrich. Those are some ideas, not the totality of it. Can you give us a sense of where you're looking at with reference to Iran? And as part of that, are you going to proactively reach out to Congress in order to forge such a consensus that can move us together with one voice towards meeting Iran as a challenge?
Thank you very much, Senator. Let me answer the last question first in terms of reaching out, and the answer is yes, absolutely, especially on a policy as challenging as the one that we have to deal with when it comes to Iran. We are much better off if we can try to work through and think through these issues together. And you have my commitment that we intend and will do that. And I look forward to the consultations and conversations that we have. When it comes to Iran, a couple of things. First, President-elect Biden is committed to the proposition that Iran will not acquire a nuclear weapon. And we share, I know, that goal across this committee. An Iran with a nuclear weapon, or on the threshold of having one, with the capacity to build one on short order, would be an Iran that is even more dangerous than it already is when it comes to all of the other malicious activities that it's engaged in, whether it is support for terrorism, whether it is fueling and feeding its proxies, whether it is destabilizing the region. An Iran with a nuclear weapon or with the threshold capacity to build one is an Iran that would act potentially with even greater impunity than it already is. So I think we have an urgent responsibility to do whatever we can to prevent Iran from acquiring a weapon or getting close to the capacity to having the fissile material to break out on short notice. In my judgment, the JCPOA, for whatever its limitations, was succeeding on its own terms in blocking Iran's pathways to producing fissile material for a nuclear weapon on short order. It also featured, and a feature that continues, the most intrusive inspections and monitoring regime in the history of arms control. The challenge we face now is that we pulled out of the agreement. Iran is now taking steps to undo the various constraints that were imposed on it by the agreement. And so it has increased its stockpile of low-enriched uranium. It is now enriching at a higher level. It is deploying centrifuges in ways that were prohibited under the agreement. The result is, based on public reporting, the breakout time, the time it would take Iran to produce enough fissile material for one weapon, has gone from beyond a year, as it was under the JCPOA, to about 3 or 4 months, based at least on public reporting. And that potentially brings us right back to the crisis point that we were reaching before the deal was negotiated. And so the President-elect believes that if Iran comes back into compliance, we would too. But we would use that as a platform with our allies and partners who would once again be on the same side with us to seek a longer and stronger agreement, and also, as you and the chairman have rightly pointed out, to capture these other issues, particularly with regard to missiles and Iran's destabilizing activities. That would be the objective. Having said that, I think we're a long way from there. We would have to see, once the President-elect is in office, what steps Iran actually takes and is prepared to take. We would then have to evaluate whether they were actually making good if they say they're coming back into compliance with their obligations, and then we would take it from there. But in the first instance, and the last thing I'll say on this, sir, is that yes, we absolutely will consult with you, and not only with you, I think as the chairman suggested, it's also vitally important that we engage on the takeoff, not the landing, with our allies and with our partners in the region, to include Israel and to include the Gulf countries.
Thank you. Now, so I'm all for stronger and longer, and very much glad to hear that these other issues also the administration will look forward to engage and challenge Iran on. I think those are important. Let me turn to China. Many of us, certainly Senator Romney, since my first meeting with him when he came to the Senate, has made China one of the focal points, and he's right about the challenge that China poses. The chairman talked about his initiative. We, meaning Democrats, introduced a couple of months ago the America Leads Act, which brought all of the relevant committees, finance, on trade, commerce, on technology, armed services, just about everybody, in a comprehensive national strategy to deal with China, which deals with both investments here at home, because some of us believe we must not only confront China, we must compete with China to be successful. Diplomacy, alliances, security, values, and trade to create a truly competitive approach. And I believe this is one of the most significant national security challenges we will have, as well as economic challenges. Can you speak a little bit about, too, how do you see that?
First of all, I've read and applaud the Leads Act, and I have also read the very good report that the chairman did on China, and applaud virtually everything that's in it. I think there's a very strong foundation there upon which to build a bipartisan policy with regard to China. As we look at China, there is no doubt that it poses the most significant challenge of any nation state to the United States in terms of our interests, the interests of the American people. There are, as I see it, rising adversarial aspects to the relationship, certainly competitive ones, and still some cooperative ones when it is in our mutual interest. I think as we're thinking about how to deal with China, and I think this is reflected in the work that the committee has done, we have to start by approaching China from a position of strength, not weakness. And the good news is our ability to do that is largely within our control. Position of strength when we are working with, not denigrating, our allies. That's a source of strength for us in dealing with China. A position of strength when we are engaged and leading in international institutions, not pulling back and ceding the terrain to China to write the rules, the norms, and animate those institutions. A position of strength when we stand up for our values, when human rights are being abused in Xinjiang, or when democracy is being trampled in Hong Kong. Our ability to make the investments in ourselves, as you pointed out, that is a source of strength. The investments as necessary in our military to make sure that we can deter any aggression. All of these things are fully within our control. And if we come together and do them, I think we can then deal with the specific challenges that China poses from that position of strength, not a position of weakness.
Thank you.